At 12:03 a.m., the presses start, even though the building that holds them burned down in 1987. By the end of this, you will understand why the story people tell about the midnight newspaper is comforting and why the truth is much worse. Most people in my town say it is a prank, teenagers, a viral marketing stunt, some leftover tradition of a long-dead publisher. That explanation travels well because it feels manageable. It turns something impossible into something childish, and there is comfort in believing that if something is childish, it can be stopped. The paper appears on doorsteps only after midnight, not 11:59, not 12:10, always within a 4-minute window after the clock crosses into the next day. It does not come every night. It comes on nights that matter. People claim the obvious. Someone is printing it somewhere else. Someone is delivering it quietly. There must be a truck. There must be a warehouse. There must be ink and paper and payroll. It sounds right because the world runs on systems. You do not get a newspaper without logistics. You do not get headlines without journalists. You do not get distribution without a route. But no one ever sees a truck. I have asked. I have stayed awake on porches. I have watched with a thermos of bad coffee and a camera that sees in the dark. The paper is not thrown. It is not placed. It is simply there, as if the night itself coughed it up and left it folded on the concrete. The first time it appeared was on April 17. That was the night before the bridge collapse. The front page headline read in bold black ink, "Bridge failure at 8:42 a.m., 6 dead." At the time, the bridge was intact. Commuters crossed it at dawn like they always had. The river below was calm. The maintenance report from the week before listed minor corrosion and no immediate risk. At 8:42 a.m., the central support of the old Miller Bridge cracked along a seam of metal fatigue that inspectors had noted but not prioritized. 6 people died. The headline was exact. The minute was exact. The number was exact. People said coincidence. They said someone guessed. Bridges fail. Accidents happen. It was bound to be right eventually. But the paper had listed the names of the 6 before their families had been notified. It did not just say 6, it printed photographs pulled from somewhere. A man in a green work jacket, a college student with a silver nose ring, a retired school teacher who still volunteered twice a week. Their birthdays were printed under their faces. The myth shifted after that. It became less about pranksters and more about leaks. Someone at the police department, someone at the hospital, someone with early access to tragedy. It sounds logical because information moves fast. In the age of phones and instant messages, news travels before it is official. Someone could have known, someone could have typed. But the ink was dry before the accident. I know this because I held the page at 12:07 a.m. It smudged slightly on my thumb, but the headline did not blur. The paper smelled faintly of smoke and something older, like wet wood left in a basement. You want to know about the building that burned in 1987? The Herald Building stood at the corner of Pine and 4th, 3 floors, brick exterior, press room in the basement. The fire report lists an electrical fault in outdated wiring. 2 workers died. 1 was never identified. The presses were destroyed, melted rollers, warped frames. The insurance payout was enough to close the business. The building was condemned and later demolished. A parking lot stands there now. Yet every midnight edition bears the name of that paper, the Pine Herald. Same masthead, same font, same motto beneath the title, "Truth Before Dawn." That motto was retired in 1973 when a new editor took over. It has not been printed publicly since. People claim nostalgia, some collector with old plates, some hobbyist with antique equipment. It feels easier to believe in a basement press than in prophecy. But the font has evolved. The early midnight editions matched the style of the 1970s. By the 3rd month, the layout shifted. It resembled modern digital formatting, columns tightened, images sharpened, headlines adjusted in a way that mirrored contemporary design. No antique press can update itself to match trends of typography. The second major incident was smaller, but more personal. The headline read, "Kitchen Fire Claims Toddler, 2:16 a.m." The address was 412 Willow Lane. That's 3 houses down from mine. At 12:02 a.m., the house was quiet, curtains drawn, a dog asleep in the yard, no smoke. I knocked. I felt foolish. I told the mother that there was something wrong with her stove. I lied. I said I smelled gas. She was irritated, but she checked. Nothing. I showed her the paper. She thought it was cruel, a sick joke. She crumpled it and told me to leave. At 2:16 a.m., an electrical fault in a cheap extension cord ignited the curtains near the kitchen window. The fire spread in under 5 minutes. The mother escaped with burns to her arms. The toddler did not make it. People said I should have insisted. I should have called the police. I should have done more. They do not understand. The article described not just the fire, but the pattern of smoke, the failure of a smoke detector battery that had been removed because of a persistent chirp, and the exact placement of the child's crib that had been moved earlier that evening. The article described details that did not exist at midnight. The myth shifted again. Now it became something supernatural, a cursed paper, a messenger of death. Some said it caused the events, some said it fed on them. That explanation spreads because it gives the paper power, and if something has power, maybe it can be appeased. Maybe if you don't read it, it cannot hurt you. But ignoring it does nothing. The delivery pattern is precise. It appears only on the homes directly connected to the event. If a fire is to occur in one house, only that house receives it. If a car accident will involve 3 people from different neighborhoods, each doorstep receives a separate copy with a tailored front page. I have seen 2 editions side by side, one for a banker who would die of a heart attack at his desk, one for a teenager who would drown in a quarry after trespassing. Different headlines, same masthead, same midnight. This detail no one likes to mention. The paper does not predict disasters randomly. It predicts events that cannot be easily prevented. The bridge collapse might have been prevented in theory, but the inspection request for repairs had been delayed 3 times due to budget disputes. The repair contract was scheduled for the next month. The fatigue crack was hidden beneath a support plate that required partial disassembly to inspect fully. No one would have closed the bridge based on a single unsigned newspaper page. The kitchen fire might have been prevented if the family had replaced the cord weeks ago, if the smoke detector had been maintained, if the curtains had been shorter. But at midnight, there was no visible flame. The article about the heart attack listed a pre-existing arterial blockage of 90%. The man had skipped 2 cardiology appointments. The paper mentioned a missed phone call from his daughter that afternoon that would have convinced him to leave work early. That call never happened because her phone battery died. It does not just predict, it catalogs inevitability. One night, there was no tragedy headline. Instead, the front page read, "Local man dies in his sleep, 12:59 a.m., natural causes." The address was mine. I read my own name beneath the headline. It described my position in my bed. It described a small clot that would travel silently and end in the brainstem. It described the mug of coffee on my desk. It described the open notebook where I had written questions about the paper. The myth that I told myself then was different. I told myself it could be wrong, that all previous cases were coincidence layered with panic, that maybe this was the night it would fail. I drove to the hospital at 12:20 a.m. I demanded tests. I told them about dizziness I didn't feel. They humored me. Blood pressure normal, heart rhythm steady, no immediate concern. At 12:54 a.m., while sitting in a plastic chair under fluorescent lights, I felt nothing. At 12:59 a.m., I felt a pressure behind my eyes. At 12:58 a.m., I did not die, because I was not in my bed. The article had described my body in my bed. It described the clot forming while I slept. It described my window slightly open, the cold air. I was under bright lights, awake, sitting upright.
At 1:03 a.m., my phone rang. It was my neighbor from Willa Lane. She had found another paper on her step. The headline read, "Man struck by car outside the hospital, 1:13 a.m." The address was the hospital parking lot. The description listed a distracted driver, a nurse late for her shift, a moment of inattention. I remained inside until 2 a.m. I did not die that night. The myth that the paper describes an unchangeable fate began to crack for me then. It was not that events could not be avoided, it was that avoiding them required knowledge and timing and sometimes an exchange. The next week, a new headline arrived at my door. "Reporter interferes with natural course, 3 additional dead." The article claimed that my avoidance of death had displaced the...
It has been 92 days since the last edition appeared. I counted them, at first out of relief, then out of habit, now out of fear of what number will follow. Lesser-known detail. The events that used to be printed at midnight have not stopped. They have only grown less precise in memory. Without the paper, people argue about times. They argue about causes. They argue about blame. The bridge creaks louder now in the cold, but no one measures the sound. The town council vote last month ended 51-49, but no one remembers the exact turnout. When the paper existed, numbers were sharp: 842, 216, 54%. Now everything feels rounded, approximate, easier to forget. That is the first change. The second change is harder to explain. 3 weeks after the silence began, I woke at exactly 12 a.m. No alarm, no sound, just awareness. My eyes opened as if someone had spoken my name. On my nightstand sat a folded page. Not on the doorstep, not outside, inside. The window was locked, the door was locked, the page was there. No masthead, no Pine Herald, just a simple line across the top. Edition 1. Lesser-known detail. The font was not the old Herald font. It matched my own handwriting, scanned and sharpened. Beneath it was a headline: "Local power outage leads to house fire, 3:11 a.m." No address, no names, just a neighborhood, East Ridge. It sounded vague, less surgical than the old papers, less omniscient. At 12:07 a.m., the power flickered once. At 12:09 a.m., it returned. I did not call anyone. I told myself this was a dream, a stress response, a mind trained to expect midnight warnings. Lesser-known detail. The old editions never used the phrase power outage. They specified transformer failure, lightning strike, grid overload. This one was imprecise. At 3:11 a.m., a house on East Ridge caught fire after candles were lit during a brief blackout. No fatalities, 2 minor injuries. The time matched, but the mechanism did not. The article had not mentioned candles. It had not mentioned human choice. It had left room. That was new. The next night, 12 a.m., again I woke without a sound. Again a page. Edition 2. Car collision at intersection of Oak and 7th, 6:22 p.m. The old paper would have listed vehicle types, speeds, weather conditions. This one listed only the intersection and the time. Lesser-known detail. Oak and 7th has had 5 minor accidents in the past 2 years, all during rain. That statistic never appeared in any midnight edition before. At 4 p.m., clouds rolled in. At 6:22 p.m., 2 cars collided. Minor injuries, no deaths. The rain had started at 6:19 p.m. I began to understand. The old paper revealed inevitability down to the smallest gear in the machine. It showed the hidden constraints, the weak bolt,
the frayed wire, the missed call. This new page was different. It showed pressure points. It did not dictate the mechanism. It highlighted the seam. Lesser-known detail. In system theory, small stresses accumulate at nodes of complexity, intersections, budget votes, aging infrastructure. That language never appeared in the old editions, but the pattern did. On the fourth night, there was no headline, only a question: what will you print? My stomach tightened in a way it had not since I saw my own obituary months ago. The myth that the paper was external, that it came from a burned basement or a dead press operator, comforted me. It made the phenomenon an object, separate, other. But this page was not other. It was waiting. Lesser-known detail. Every previous edition had included a corrections column. These pages did not. They assumed adjustment before print, not after. I did not sleep the following night. I sat at my desk at 11:59 p.m., pen in hand. At 12 a.m., a blank sheet appeared. No headline, no ink, just space. The town had been quiet that day. No major tensions, no storm warnings, no votes scheduled, no visible cracks. So I wrote nothing. At 2:47 a.m., a drunk driver ran a red light on Pine and struck a parked car. No injuries, property damage only. At 12 a.m. the next night, the blank page returned. I began to test it. I wrote, "Small kitchen fire contained quickly, 1:18 a.m." I chose a house with old wiring but attentive owners. I chose a time when someone would likely be awake. At 1:18 a.m., a pan left on a stove ignited briefly. The homeowner extinguished it with a lid. No injuries. Lesser-known detail. The stove in that house had malfunctioned twice in the past year, but no major incident had occurred. The probability of a small fire was non-zero. The event matched the headline in scale. That is when fear shifted into something heavier. The old paper revealed inevitability down to the smallest gear in the machine. It showed the hidden constraints, the weak bolt, the frayed wire, the missed call. This new page was different. It showed pressure points. It did not dictate the mechanism. It highlighted the seam. Lesser-known detail. In system theory, small stresses accumulate at nodes of complexity, intersections, budget votes, aging infrastructure. That language never appeared in the old editions, but the pattern did. On the fourth night, there was no headline, only a question: what will you print? My stomach tightened in a way it had not since I saw my own obituary months ago. The myth that the paper was external, that it came from a burned basement or a dead press operator, comforted me. It made the phenomenon an object, separate, other. But this page was not other. It was waiting. Lesser-known detail. Every previous edition had included a corrections column. These pages did not. They assumed adjustment before print, not after. I did not sleep the following night. I sat at my desk at 11:59 p.m., pen in hand. At 12 a.m., a blank sheet appeared. No headline, no ink, just space. The town had been quiet that day. No major tensions, no storm warnings, no votes scheduled, no visible cracks. So I wrote nothing. At 2:47 a.m., a drunk driver ran a red light on Pine and struck a parked car. No injuries, property damage only. At 12 a.m. the next night, the blank page returned. I began to test it. I wrote, "Small kitchen fire contained quickly, 1:18 a.m." I chose a house with old wiring but attentive owners. I chose a time when someone would likely be awake. At 1:18 a.m., a pan left on a stove ignited briefly. The homeowner extinguished it with a lid. No injuries. Lesser-known detail. The stove in that house had malfunctioned twice in the past year, but no major incident had occurred. The probability of a small fire was non-zero. The event matched the headline in scale. That is when fear shifted into something heavier. The old paper revealed inevitability down to the smallest gear in the machine. It showed the hidden constraints, the weak bolt, the frayed wire, the missed call. This new page was different. It showed pressure points. It did not dictate the mechanism. It highlighted the seam. Lesser-known detail. In system theory, small stresses accumulate at nodes of complexity, intersections, budget votes, aging infrastructure. That language never appeared in the old editions, but the pattern did. On the fourth night, there was no headline, only a question. What will you print? My stomach tightened in a way it had not since I saw my own obituary months ago. The myth that the paper was external, that it came from a burned basement or a dead press operator, comforted me. It made the phenomenon an object, separate, other. But this page was not other. It was waiting. Lesser-known detail. Every previous edition had included a corrections column. These pages did not. They assumed adjustment before print, not after. I did not sleep the following night. I sat at my desk at 11:59 p.m., pen in hand. At 12 a.m., a blank